Personnel Committee. We'll start with public comment. The Penridge School Board welcomes public comment according to policy 903. We remind everyone of the following. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise specified by the board. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and note their name and municipality. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer rather than to individual board members, district employees, or members of the public. A speaker may speak once during each comment period. Please note that these sessions are designated for comments. To protect the confidentiality and privacy rights of all members of our community, the board encourages members of the public to direct any comments regarding particular individuals, such as students or district employees, privately to the superintendent or other appropriate administrator, or to communicate with the board privately by sending an email to psdschoolboard@penridge.org. Questions raised and not addressed will be followed up at a later time. We have no people signed up for public comment on the sheet. Is there anyone who'd like to make a public comment before we start? No? All right. We will then go to the 2 items that are on the agenda tonight. First is the review of job description changes. Mrs. McHale, do you care to comment on this?
Sure. So the first job description change that we bring before you is the Assistant Director of Technology, and that is, Assistant Director of Transportation, thank you, sir. And we are bringing that forth due to the change in leadership, and when we have someone new coming into the position, we always review the job description and see if there are any necessary changes that need to take place. So we've sent that out to you, again, some additions, some that we're taking out. Did anyone have any questions on that particular job description? Okay. The second is a little bit of a change. This is also being brought forth and reviewed due to the retirement of our tax secretary. This position is 1,150 hours, which averages out to about 4.5 hours per day. We're not asking for any additional hours or days attached to this position, but we would like to remove some of the duties that were attached to the tax secretary that are obsolete at this point, and add in duties that would be related to the technology department. The intent is to take away some of the clerical tasks that the technology technicians are doing at this time and free them up so that they could then focus better on the needs of the students in the classroom. So it would be more of like a hybrid position now, with tax secretary and technology secretary. And I believe Mr. Daubert also sent out a little description of the request for this position. Did anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, I just want to highlight one piece, and it wasn't the email, but for the sake of the community, that this is, as we move towards 1-on-1 and have more devices in classrooms that need more support, we really are looking at ways to provide our techs with additional time without providing for extra techs if necessary. And so to be able to not recommend a new tech for next year, even though there's going to be additional devices, this is one of the positions to be able to do that. Because the tasks that are down there in terms of warranty claims and tech orders and purchase of supplies and equipment are all currently being done by building techs. And so to be able to have a person who can shoulder those clerical tasks will free up the techs to actually work in the classrooms with the teachers. And so we're excited by the extra time that they'll have for that if this position were to be for next year's consideration.
So if we have no questions on those two, then are we good moving these to
Yes.
the?
Is the board prepared to move these to a vote on the 25th? Okay. So they will be on the agenda on Monday night, the 25th, for approval.
Thank you.
Second item is the discussion of new positions. Some of this is essentially a second reading since we did discuss these at the February meeting, but these 2 positions are the instructional coach and the SPO that's been recommended for the high school, or 2 SPOs for the high schools, and this would be the job descriptions. Do you have any further comments on those tonight?
I'm going to defer to Dr. Bolton for the instructional coach if there are any questions.
So we spoke about the instructional coach in terms of the purpose of the position, but wanted to put the job description in front of you since this is a new position for Penridge. And so as we said verbally, we really contacted multiple schools. We looked at 6 different job descriptions for other school districts that have similar positions. Some call them instructional coaches, some call them job coaches, some call them academic coaches. They have different names, but really they are teacher-specific classroom support. So these would be teachers who would then take these as positions and would provide the support. If you remember, the recommendation is to look for 3 of them, 1 at the elementary level and 1 at the secondary level. The recommendation would be that they would be permanent positions. The expectation is for the first year they would be teacher on special assignment. That would allow both the district and the teacher to make sure that this is the right job for them, because if teachers leave, they give up their contractual rights in terms of their classrooms, and so that gives them a 1-year buffer. We're more likely to get teachers to apply if they know that if it's something that just doesn't work out for them, that they can go back to their classroom as opposed to lose that. At the end of the first year, the expectation is they would become like the tech integrators, where they would be teachers, but they would be assigned to this position, and so that we would fill their classrooms with a contracted person behind them. The third one that we're looking for is just a K-5 literacy instructional coach. The recommendation is for that to be a 3-year position only, so that would be a teacher on special assignment for 3 years, again, expecting to have wonderful internal candidates for that. And that really is to shepherd our reading and our writing pilots through until all of the schools have them implemented, and that's at the end of year 3, will be a whole year of the cycle, both programs being in all 7 elementary schools. And so to provide teachers that the importance of the literacy program at the elementary level are obvious, and to have this person provide that classroom support for them. If you remember, this is part of the recommendation where we took the 6 curriculum supervisors and reduced that number to 4 and used that cost savings for these 3 instructional coaches. And so this is, again, not new money in the budget, but is a reallocation of current money in the budget for these 3 instructional coaches.
I would like to comment that I'm not totally comfortable with the recommendation. As I told you, Dr. Golden, I believe the rest of the board knows that as well. I do think that our supervisors have provided a very valuable service and that they are busy. And I am concerned that despite the fact that you are shifting some of the burden or some of the responsibilities to these instructional coaches, that need will still be there and perhaps not fully filled. I am glad to see that we're considering and presumably going to approve the instructional coaches. I think that's a good addition. You're going to interview inside and outside, I presume, for these individuals should they be approved?
Yeah, my philosophy for these types of positions is to post both internally and externally, although obviously for this type of position, internal candidates will have a huge advantage in terms of knowing the system and knowing our instruction, and I'm confident that we'll have wonderful internal candidates. But I do think it's good for a system to look, to make sure that we're not just closing ourselves off to what is here and to look at what's outside, to have that as a consideration.
And my other concern is, as always, when we create this kind of position, that you look for and hopefully choose the best teacher for the position. The trouble with that, as I see it, is you lose that best teacher from wherever they are currently. And I know cases where this has happened in the district, and it's a very mixed feeling in my opinion. Because yes, you gain something here, but you also lose something here. And sometimes that's something that's very hard to replace, at least in the initial situation. So that's always a concern. I know you don't want to hold people back from doing something bigger and better, but I still think it's something to be concerned about. I don't know how you choose knowing whether that's a positive or a negative on balance, right?
Right.
Those are my concerns about this.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on these job descriptions? John?
I'm glad that we are, that the new reading program is so important, and I'm glad that we're going to have people right in the trenches with the teachers to kind of guide them through the process, because otherwise, it wouldn't be as effective as it should be if you didn't have these people being guided along the way. And I do understand the point about, you lose a good teacher to this. On the other hand, it's going to give the opportunity for someone to rise up and shine in the role as a good teacher. We do have a lot of great teachers, so that's the good news. I think we'll have a lot of good people to choose from, and I think
comments?
I've had very personal experiences with instructional coaches when I was a teacher. Souderton used them heavily, and they were an asset to my classroom, and loved every time I got to have an instructional teacher come over and help me as a long-term sub. And then we also used to have a literacy coach about 8-9 years ago in our district. She's now back in the classroom because we did away with the position. But I was a long-term sub in this district, and she came in every day and helped me with my writing program. And it was a wonderful experience for me and my students to have somebody to co-teach with. So I see the strength in this group. I support it. I'm excited about it.
Other comments?
I think it's a great opportunity for teachers that are great teachers to advance themselves as well. And we can bring in other great teachers into the district, so there's a win-win, I think.
Prepared to advance this to the board for approval. So then the last item is the school police officer job description.
There are no additional changes to the school police officer job description. I believe we're just bringing you forward again for additional comment, and
Any further
does
comment?
anybody know?
Dr. Bolton?
No, so I mean, as Ms. McDowell said, we really just wanted to make sure that we provided adequate time for public feedback as well as board feedback and consideration of this job description. So that's been before us for a couple of meetings. The only additional information I have since the board meeting was I did take the opportunity to meet with some focus groups, and so met with a group of about 30 student leaders. They have the leaders of organizations that meet during their RAMS period. So it was convenient for me to meet with them, that they had one scheduled, so I sat and met with them just to make sure I heard from them, see what kind of rumors were out there or truths were out there, to make sure that accurate information was being shared, and that was a wonderful meeting with them. Also had a meeting with the high school staff. It was after school voluntary, about 40 to 50 teachers attended that meeting. Again, saying just to hear from them. Some spoke at the meeting, some sent me emails afterwards. Again, just sharing information, making sure that they had accurate information in terms of what was being shared. Let them ask questions from that standpoint. And both of those groups, very similar to what we had heard from the community, concerned about our current security guards and what that means, right? And will this cost them jobs or not jobs? And so wanted to make sure they understood that. If we were to hire outside people, and what that would do in terms of bumping our current security guards from possible full-time. We talked about who's eligible to apply, and the expectation, I have spoken with all the security guards that are eligible. My expectation is that many, if not all of them, will apply for the position in terms of speaking with them. We also had our monthly meeting with the local police chiefs. I'm sorry, not monthly, we have a quarterly meeting with the police chiefs, and it actually happened a week ago. So it happened in between the two meetings, and so that opportunity, obviously they had questions. They've been following the news as well. Some of them have been very involved in these conversations, other ones, so we brought them up to speed, talked to them a little bit about what that working relationship would look like if these positions were to be approved, what we need to, think about in terms of those positions. So it was really, really helpful to meet with them. So those are just additional conversations we've had since then.
I had a constituent ask me, since you brought this up, I'm talking to people, why, if we surveyed for the high school graduation venue, we didn't survey for the issue of the security, in this case, police officer versus security guard, because we're converting to security guards if this is approved into school police officers.
And I see those two issues differently from a survey standpoint, not from an input standpoint. I think that we have done a nice job of communicating the situation and soliciting feedback and responding to that feedback that we've gotten. I mean, you've been on many of the emails that we've received as well, some that have come to me from that standpoint. When you're looking at something that I do believe is preference in terms of graduation venue, I see that more of a preference than I do think that the people who are directly impacted by that, we gather all the input and then do ask their opinion about that. One of the pieces of survey is that often if you ask people a binary question where it's yes or no as opposed to give me your thoughts, then the question is, well, if 70% pick one thing, does that mean you should do what 70% is? I do think that school safety and security falls squarely on our shoulders in terms of our responsibility to make sure that we're making those decisions about building adjustments, about staffing, about cameras, about all those types of things that come through the board for approval. So I think that it's very important to gather feedback from everybody who's gonna be impacted by a decision, but that was the decision that we had made as to why we would survey in one case and not survey in another case.
And I do agree, surveys are double-edged swords in many ways. I think the most memorable one was the survey about whether or not we should have a pool at the high school when we were renovating and building this high school during the early 2000s. And when it was sent out to the community, the response was pretty much a 50-50. Not a lot of responses, I think there were perhaps 500 of them. Don't quote me on that number, but it was a relative to the size of the community, not a huge number. But they were almost split dead down the middle. And then what do you do? Right, because then you had the survey results, but no conclusive evidence that even that either was the real choice. Did most people not care? Was that what that said? Not clear. And I think that's true of most surveys. That you don't get a huge number. And I know from personal experience, I'm always being surveyed. You can't go anywhere without being surveyed. I went and had a recall on my vehicle the other day, and they sent me a survey immediately. I really need this? But that's the way the world works these days. So, okay.
I think it's important to, there was, back in, last year, it wasn't exactly a survey about directly the school police officer, school resource officer, but within the survey that was done, or when we, took questions from the community before the safety presentation. We had the safety forum. There was a lot of opportunity in that for people to give their thoughts on school security in general, and some of those, the comments did come back about different ways you could address school security. So in my mind, that sort of was the survey of the public of what you would like to see. I mean, I don't think anyone, Dr. Bolton, I just want to take this opportunity because next Monday night I won't be able to, I'll have to be on the phone. So I don't want to take a lot of time to talk over the speaker, but I just wanted to say again publicly that I really appreciate your thoroughness, your thoughtfulness with this. You took a lot of time, did a lot of analysis. You took us all back 4 years ago up into this point, and it was really worthwhile for everybody to get refreshed on that, and I appreciate your effort, so thank you.
Any other comments from the board? I mean, I will say I do not have any problem with this job description, but I don't support the proposal.
I just have one question. How frequently are the police currently at the high school?
It's a great question. When we first started having this conversation in the fall, I asked the high school administration that piece. So they talked at their meeting and they wrote back to me and they said, to quantify it in the system is not the complete visits, because the only thing we put in the system is when the police are here to address a student issue. And the police are not always here to address a student issue. And so looking at that number versus how many times are the police officers in, and so they estimated that it was 3 to 4 times a week on average. Some weeks it's daily, some weeks it's 2 or 3 times. I asked the students the same question because I wanted to kind of get a sense, and it's not like the students are going to see them every time they're in the building. And the students said, well, we see them regularly. We see them. I said, well, do you see them every week? They said, yeah, we see them every week. I said, do you see them a couple times every week? They said, yeah, I think most weeks we do see them a couple times every week. Either walking around or they're there, or they hear the rumor that they're in the building. And that's usually when they're dealing with a student issue. Maybe they're only in the office from that standpoint. So if you were to estimate currently, we would say that 3 to 4 times a week there's a police officer in the building.
Any other comments? Moving into the board meeting on the 25th. Okay, it will be on the agenda to approve on the night of the 25th. Let's see. That's all of the agenda items, and the next personnel committee is scheduled for Monday, April 8th, 2019. So with that, we're back to public comments, same rules as before. Anyone wish to comment?
I may
Oh, okay.
go up to the podium.
Yes, please. Name and municipality.
Mike's not working. Alex Rajan from Bedminster Township. I want to ask the board members, I know we're going to the FPO and kind of like the reasoning behind it. I had experience with this before. What's your thoughts on harming teachers? Is that the next step? What about the other schools? I want the board to answer that. You have your thoughts.
She can't do
You can't ask anybody from the board?
So this is about public comment, and so the board can choose, or they can follow up afterwards.
Okay.
But it is intended for comment.
Yeah, my reason for comment is, are we going down a path of one way, not, because remember, I made comments about this earlier. I moved to this neighborhood for a reason. And the reason was how safe the neighborhood was, and how I don't have a police officer in the school. Now we're getting to that level. And yes, this neighborhood is a little different than Brooklyn, and we have gun shops down here, and I didn't have it in Brooklyn. We gotta fix something else outside of the school and not address it here. I just don't want this to be a slippery path in the wrong direction. That's all. Thanks.
And I will, because the two of the questions you asked have been addressed publicly from me through the board, so I will at least ask them and answer them because this information's been shared before, it's nothing new. It's currently in Pennsylvania not legal to arm teachers, and so obviously the board would not be considering something that's illegal.
Thank
We bring that for
That's what I mean.
recommendation. And so I know that that's been conversation and that there are people on both sides of that,
Right.
of that thought process, but currently that is not legal. We talked to our solicitor about all our options.
Okay.
And so currently the options in Pennsylvania are school police officer or school resource officer.
Okay.
They are the only two options from that standpoint. In terms of other buildings, we did talk through that when you look at the $100,000 that was budgeted, because again, this is not new money. This is money that was budgeted last year for an SRO that we are spending.
Right.
And so from a financial standpoint, that gets us to school police officers. They will primarily be housed in the high school, but their responsibility will not only be to the high school. They will be responsible to make sure that they can form relationships with all of our buildings. And so there will be times where they are in the other buildings, getting to know the layout, getting to know the office staff, getting to the kids being comfortable with them, because in an emergency, they obviously would be among the first responders
How are they,
from that standpoint.
a follow-up,
So,
how are they getting to the different schools?
in their vehicle.
Their own private?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
And
we
then
pay
we
mileage
pick
and-
it.
Exactly,
Okay.
like we would any other employee who's in multiple buildings.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
My name's Steve Meenan, I'm a Bedminster resident, former teacher, taught in Central Bucks School District, actually taught in Central Bucks during the Columbine incident. And I'm a firm supporter of the armed officer on site. I had 3 children in the district, and I had this conversation when I was teaching with my colleagues. The only way to deal with an active shooter in a school is to have someone that can fire back. And there's a lot of resources that are available. I know that the NRA has been somewhat demonized in a lot of these situations, but the NRA had something called the School Shield Program. Has anyone looked into that? Okay. So the School Shield Program is essentially a program that's been developed by the NRA to bring in expert security consultants to have and analyze the school, analyze entry and egress out of the school, and analyze training that may be implemented. In fact, the shooting that took place in Florida, the students, I read the report, and the students thought it was a fire drill. When the armed shooter went up to the 2nd floor, the students were outside of the classrooms. They were all in the hallway. So, these are programs that the NRA can help the district actively pursue proper training for staff and implement drills and programs that can help save lives potentially. So
That's free too, isn't it?
Excuse me? Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, the NRA is again sometimes unfortunately demonized, but they've probably done more for firearms training and safety than any other organization on the planet. So my thought is they are a very effective resource for the school system if you reach out to them. So I just wanted to make that known. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Then this meeting is adjourned, and we'll move to the curriculum meeting in a few minutes.